This is Tanya Pearson interviewing Paloma McLardy on September 1st, 2018 in Hyannis, Massachusetts for the Women of Rock Oral History Project. Thank you so much. We're all very excited to be here speaking with you. So like I told you off camera, it's a personal and professional biography. So if you could talk a little bit about where you grew up, your family of origin.
So I grew up in Spain when I was very little. I was born in Melilla, which is in Africa, belongs to Spain. And when I was 4, my family moved to Malaga, which is in the south of Spain. Beautiful palm trees, beautiful weather, and I'm part of a big family, 9 brothers and sisters, and I was number 8. And so I will describe my family as beautiful, wild, little crazy, not your usual Spanish family for that time, I will imagine, in some ways. Maybe because we were so many. But I think my mom was an educated woman, and she had gone to university, which at her time people didn't do that. So, and my father was more like macho man and businessman, and so it was a very colorful upbringing. A lot of the memories I have from Spain are like growing up, talking about as a teenager, just later on, like we would talk. There was always a lot of people in the house, friends, or even just the siblings. We were a lot of us, and we will have conversations about what is life about, or politics, or injustice. And at the time, Franco was leading the country. He was a dictator. I don't think people in America realize what living under a dictator does to a person, especially a young person. Especially, I was not the type of person that would just go along with things. I would protest and complain about it, and thinking there had to be a different way. And so eventually, also I was inspired by, you would see these hippies coming to Spain. They were going from England or Northern Europe, and they would come with a backpack and go down to Morocco to get their drugs or whatever. But to me, they just, it was a visual expression of freedom. Like the idea of just having your belongings in a little backpack and just go to see the world, to me, it was just so inspiring. And so the kind of pubs, we have bars, we were starting getting, just regular teenage hanging out with each other. But after a while it got tiring. I felt like I really wanted to go to London. And it was a bit of a struggle with my dad because he didn't want me to go. So, and he had to give me permission. Even wives had to get permission from their husband to travel. So, of course, a young girl had to get permission. I was 17, 18 at the time. And I kind of forced him. Like I said, if you don't let me, I'm going to run away, and I'm going to go to a bad part of an area, Torremolinos, near where we lived, and it was really not very reputable. And so anyway, between my mom and him, they must have talked. He signed. I went, no money. I think I had borrowed $100, £100 from someone, which you had to show in order for the British customs. You had to show that you had money. So I didn't have, but somehow I had. So I showed that I had that money. They let me in, and I sent the money to my friend so that he could do the same.
Can I ask you, were you afraid? Was that the first time that you had left your family, or? You weren't nervous at all?
I'm sure I was, you know, like, but it was so, the main emotion was the excitement. And if sometimes I would think, oh, what am I doing? I didn't really. It was everything. I was so excited about it and thinking about the possibilities. I wasn't nurturing my fears. I don't really think when I do something like that, I don't think about, well, what are the... I mean, teenagers don't think like that. Like, fear was, it was just like, also, I was afraid, what I was really afraid was to end up in a situation that women were in Spain. That made me more scared, like to be in a situation that I hated, married to someone that I wasn't excited about, or that I was excited, but then there was a big difference in the roles that men and women, what was acceptable for men and what was acceptable for women was very, very different. Like, I was supposed to do sandwiches for my brothers, and I remember saying to my mom, they can do it themselves, they have hands, they can do it. And so, but it was like this molding you into, our role was to serve men. And then I also, like, I learned from, you know, it was very common for men to cheat on their wives. And I would say, if someone's going to cheat on me, I'm going to cheat on them. That's no way I'm going to put up with something like that. I just didn't see that as something that I wanted. So it was really like running away from something that I didn't see a future in. You know, and also as a little child, I was molested. And I think that probably made me not be so romantic about it, like be more realistic. Like some aspects of it, it was just like, it's not all roses, you know, like, so, but it's not like I don't feel like it really affected me anymore. It was so normal, almost, like when I look back, a lot of it had happened sadly to a lot of other girls. And so anyway, I was just really like cocky, and I'm not gonna put up with that, and I'm gonna do my own thing. And in the school, I was very much like a bit of a leader in some way, in like just egging people on to do something or other. So yeah. So I left. I arrived in London, and I didn't understand a thing. I remember someone trying to say to me, hello, how are you, or something simple, and me going like, oh my God, what are they saying? I remember the first Christmas was sad. I think I remember thinking, oh, I miss my family. And so a few times I remember. But for the most, it was just like the adventure of it and making my way there in the big city. And so I found a job, just a regular thing. I ended up having to go back to Spain, and my sister Esperanza went in the summer. So I went to do a year at college in Madrid, and then I came, my sister had gone in the summer, so then I went back in September, and she put me in touch with Richard, who is now her husband, Richard Dudansky. He played with Peel, with Johnny Rotten at one point, and he had been the drummer of the 101ers. So when I arrived there, they introduced me, so it was a group of squads, and so it was full-fledged squad city in around Walterton Road, London West 9. So it was an amazing time. It was actually great, like it was very exciting. I remember writing to my mom and saying, I live in a commune, and that's what I wanted to do, because I was very influenced by socialist, anarchist ideas, like anything that was against Franco. I didn't really understand it, and it was kind of a teenager politics, you know, I didn't really know much, but I was attracted to the ideas of equality and justice, which is healthy. is a healthy sign for a teenager, but I didn't really understand it. But I knew I didn't want to be under a dictatorship, that I disagree with that way. And so when I got there, it was like living my dream, like living in a place. So I lived in 101 Walterton Road, and as it happened, Woody, who later on became Joe Strummer, was living there. And I was with my Bolivian boyfriend, who was not very nice, really. So it was just, I just broke up with him. And
did you have any interest in music at all before you met?
Not really. I never had an interest in music per se. I love listening to music. I love dancing. So I guess in that way, but I never thought of me playing an instrument. You know, in music when I was little, I was kind of like a bad girl in the school, and I would just get, never really made it to the choir or something like that. I went to a Catholic school, never really made it. And so, but I really like dancing, and I like listening to it. And I had been really in Spain in like my last years in Spain. There was a lot of Juan Manuel Serrat, Aute. There was a lot of people singing kind of like Joan Baez and Bob Dylan, that type. And they were using some of really beautiful poems from a group of Spanish poets that were there before the Civil War. And they were... and just their own, like they were expressing themselves through music, and I was very attracted to that. It wasn't so much, I love their songs because that was the style of the time. But the main thing I loved about it is that they were saying something and communicating to me, and I would remember like just listening to their records again and again. I would lock myself in the room and I just listened to them for hours. And they just spoke about a different world. I guess it was like everything was like trying to get out of something that I felt was very confined. And so when I got there, I very soon broke up with Herman, and I kind of wanted to be by myself. Like I had a rough time, and he was super difficult, complicated person. I mean, probably his upbringing or whatever, but he definitely had double standards for himself and for girls, and that was really disappointing because his ideology at first seemed very like progressive, and he was supposedly communist, but he wasn't really. He was just number one. And so anyway, when it came, finally I realized of what was happening, and I broke up with him. I wanted to be by myself, and but Joe was around, and he was really interested, and he was pursuing me, and I was kind of like saying, wait, no, I want to be by myself. But he kind of like conquered me. He was charming, and so we just started hanging out.
Were you still hippies then?
Yes, very much so. The whole thing was, so I would say it's like the hippie movement was going down a little bit, like it was, I guess I caught the end of it, like I'm talking about 73, 74, so, but it's still, it was basically mostly a hippie community, and that's how I had long hair, some flares, but mostly I still like tight pants and that, like the narrow, more like 50s. And so Joe was very friendly and outgoing, and he was, at the time he was Woody, and he was really into his music. He had started the 101ers. They had gone through some different people, but and we were all like helping around that. We were like, when they did the gig, we all went. It was like a group of people, like mainly 3 or 4 squads, and we will hang out together, go to have a meal in someone's squad, you know, and we would all hang out there. We would make a meal or something. At first, I didn't understand English. So, and I was mystified. I just, like, we were in this kitchen. The guys had built like benches around. So there was all benches, like it was a tiny little kitchen. And so we would just sit there and talk and drink tea. That's what I remember. And this old gas stove. I remember they were hooking up. So it was a squad, no electricity. So someone knew something about wires. I remember seeing this sparkle of like things flashing and, you know, cables smell of burned, you know. And I remember just being there, and we were just laughing, and they managed to connect, and now we have electricity. So we basically lived from the dole. We had money from the government, not much, but so we felt like rich. We had a home, we had friends, we had all our needs met. And one thing so we had the space and time to create. So there was a lot of actually pretty creative projects. Like one was the one I wanted. There was a tea room. Someone started this place where you could go and have a baked potato and a cup of tea for, you know, next to nothing. And again, we all like help. I remember cooking a Spanish omelette there, so it was all like very community. Then other people had done Meanwhile Gardens, which was a derelict place, and people just in the community helped. They called it Meanwhile Gardens because the government was saying, oh, we're going to do something, but they never did anything. And so they did it like a place for skateboarding for kids and gardens. And so there was a lot of positive stuff that was happening. So then Joe was very, like, people said that when I was with him, he opened up more, and he was more, more open about himself. Like, he's not so, but he was very outgoing, very charismatic, and he was very driven. Like, I remember he said that, he said to me one time, I remember walking in Harrow Road, and there was the Windsor Castle, which was a pub, an Irish pub, and they didn't want anything to do with the 101ers because they were squatters, dirty squatters, and they wouldn't let them play there. They had a residency at the Chippenham, which was, I think they paid £1 to rent the room, something like that. And people in turn paid 10 cents to get in. So it was like, money was not an issue. And but he wanted to play there, and we were walking, and he pointed out, I said, one day I'm gonna play there. And he had that drive, and he said he had a brother that had committed suicide, and he said he chose death and I choose life. And it really struck me, like, you know, I was like, and he said, and to me the most important thing is the music. Music is number one. So we were just like starting to be a couple, like a night, and so it was almost like he was saying, this is how I can do it. And instead of feeling like, oh, well, does that make me number two? You know, I really felt like I really appreciated his honesty, and for one, but also that he had a goal, like he had a vision for his own life, that he had a drive. I really like that. I thought he said he wanted to be famous. And I thought that was childish, to be honest. I cannot chuckle, and that's so silly. Because, you know, like in Spain, we had thought about more important things, about justice, and I was like, wanting to be famous was just like childish. But anyway, I still liked him, and we got closer and closer, and we were very like, he was very tender and kind. And so anyway, but so life goes on, and basically what we were doing is supporting the group. We would like go dance, drink beer, make flyers, party, go and eat people's houses. And I started getting restless, I started getting like, what am I doing with my life? Like my own life. So it was like 2 years down the road, like I think I have a 2-year mark to 2 years I start thinking about situation. I just felt like maybe it was our relationship was that we weren't meant to be together or something. So I told him that I wanted to break up, and he didn't want to, and he kind of convinced me to I said, well, at least I need to go away for a bit and think about what I'm doing. I feel like I'm not doing anything with my own life. And a friend of mine, Gail, had invited me to go up to this farm, and they needed help, and we had no clue about farming at all. But I thought, well, that's a great. So I went with her and this guy Mole that had been kicked out of the 101ers. So he was just really depressed. I just remember him sitting there depressed, and we were trying to cheer him up, but we were in this like a motorhome or something in this farm, and we had no clue. We were thinking good thoughts about the tomatoes, but the tomatoes died because we weren't really watering them too much, getting high and but just having a break. And I was in touch with Joe through the phone. The impact started this period of time while I was there. Joe saw the Sex Pistols, and he was getting really interested because he also, I actually have to say, in general, the country there was unrest. It was just, I was just feeling my own one, but really the whole, the economics and the political situation, the Labour Party hadn't done what they're supposed to do or whatever. Everybody was just, there was no jobs, and there was a general discontent. And Joe was discontented with what he had, which was the 101ers. He wanted to make it more. It wasn't, and they were really getting a lot of attention. But of course, he would read the papers, and they were never there because they were just a pub. Sometimes they will get mentioned here and there, but they were working really hard, and they had been working hard at it. So when he saw the Sex Pistols, it was just like he was blown away. And so we were having conversations because we weren't really broken up. We were just seeing where we were going to go. And so he would tell me about it. And so after 2 months, I came back. And when I got to our room, our home, it was part of a squad. He wasn't there. And I hadn't talked to him for a week or something, so I thought something is up. So what had happened is that he had tried to get some of his 101ers friends to move on to the punk. With the Clash, he tried to get Richard to join, and so basically they were very critical of him, like he was just selling out, and that he was just, it was almost felt like betrayal, like from everybody, mostly everybody. So I landed in this situation. I had time to think about my relationship. I figured it's not him, it's just that I need to do something for myself. So I thought, I think I want to be a street performer. I like mime, and I want to do mime. Just why not? So it was very, and I had a friend, Big John, that was doing street shows, and I said, can I join you? So he said, sure. They had a little group, and they had this Belgian guy that was like Franco, and he was such a dictator, and he was telling you, do this and do that, and it was like, what is this? I wasn't expecting that. And he had a girlfriend, and she had to do all these like gymnastics, and so he said, we don't need someone to do mime. We need someone to do the roles, while the girlfriend did whatever he told her to do, or whatever, you know. It was just a bizarre, you know. There was in this hippie thing, you know, like freedom for some. But anyway, some people are more. What's that? Anyway.
I know what you mean.
So I complied for 3 days. I said, sure, I'll do the drums. So I started doing the roles, and then I got kind of into, like, you know, it's just like a new thing. I was like, this is cool. So I say that because I hadn't really thought about playing music at all. I like music in the sense that I really enjoy dancing. Like with the 101ers, one thing I love about their music is you could really dance. Actually, I used to dance with my husband, Dave, because I was with Joe, but he was singing. So my sister and I, we danced together with Dave because he was so wild and it was so fun to dance with him. And we were friends, but we weren't together. I was together with Joe. But we would dance. I mean, like 101ers sing, and going back now, they would be playing Gloria, Van Morrison's Gloria. I mean, I remember like the police coming, arresting people fighting, and we're dancing, like we're not care. And they're playing. They don't care. We're going to finish this song, and we're really totally into it. It was like, really, he was a great performer. He was like, gave it all. Like he played with a passion. And so Bernie had seen the 101ers. So they had scouted for him, and they contacted him, and so they invited him to the clash. And so when he realized that everybody was like just judging his choice to leave the 101ers, I mean, think about it. Also, I kind of understand one side, because 101ers, it was very much a thing of Joe, but it was also very much a community thing. It had grown from the roots up. So everybody had help with flyers, with sticking flyers on lampposts and things like that. So there was a little sense of that, and that I could understand. But also I understood that Joe wanted something different, and he was excited about this. But when we met, so like he had left the house, the squad. So I think it was Richard told me like, no, he's not living here anymore. And I didn't know that. And so, never mind, I left for 2 months, but anyway. But we've been talking, and he hadn't said that he hadn't progressed to that. So, anyway, he was at he told me what it was, and so I hopped on a bus, and I was looking around, and I saw, so I went to see him, and I just to talk to him, and I saw some guys, and I knew they must be his friends, because nobody else looked like that. There was these punk rockers, leather, spike, hair. And I looked, and he wasn't there. He wasn't one of them. And so then I looked around, and I saw him going into a pub. And so I jumped off the bus, because in England you can just jump off. And I ran after him, and I jumped on him and said, "Hey, Joe, how are you? I'm so excited to see you." And he looked like, he looked like all downcast, not like himself. He looked very different. So I was like, what's going on? And so he goes, so we went into the pub to get a drink, and it was in the middle of the day. So basically he just said, it's not gonna work. I'm gonna be in this group, and this is the main thing for me. And so he expected me to react like everybody else, but I felt like I was respecting myself, so I had to give him room. I mean, if someone doesn't want to be with you, what can you do? So they don't. So I just felt like, oh, okay. you know, it was kind of sad and that, but I like felt that's okay. And then we continued talking and said, no, I'm actually curious. I mean, I think it's kind of cool, some of the stuff, you know, like, so we had this conversation, you know, like just saying that, no, I feel like I just need to do something for myself. So at the end of the conversation, without me trying to say, oh no, please stay with me, like at the end, like we both felt like, no, we want to be together and do this thing together. So this thing, like he was a lot more aware of what this thing was than I was, and I was just like curious, and I knew that I did not want to go back to what my last 2 years had been, like just sitting around smoking pot and not doing anything with my life. So this had a lot of action to it. So I was attracted to that, you know, so that I definitely like. I like the idea of dressing up crazy and making our own clothes, and so that's what we decided. So then he moved back into the squad. We were in Orchard Terrace, but then we were trying to figure out what our relationship was, and not just our relationship, like our life, our outlook on life is different, you know. There had been a lot of experimental situations in the hippie thing, like one guy was living with 2 girls. I don't remember any girl living with 2 guys, but yes. But I had another squad, had like the toilet walls knocked down. So people, yeah. So nothing was private, you know, it was just statements like that people would just try something. And so pretty much everything had been experimental. So experimenting and figuring out what life is, leaving something behind, I could see the positive aspect of it. But very soon, then I started learning like things like, you know, how Bernie was saying, you know, if you're a punk rocker, this is what, you know, you need to dress like that. This is what we're thinking. This is the right way to think. So all that it was, so I'm jumping in head first, cutting my hair, getting the clothes, and so I'm learning these things. So I was very much like some sense of like what's going on here. There was a little bit, but not too much, and everything was happening so fast. So I'm still like, there was enough positive things in it that I wanted to write with it, and not only write with it, like really be part of it. I started writing songs, and that was like so exciting, like my own songs, you know, saying how I feel. And then I looked for someone, oh, no, before that. So we hung out, and the group was small, so it was Johnny Rotten, like the little circle of Sex Pistols, Clash, and Sid Vicious was part of that. So he was forming a group, and somehow I end up being the drummer of Sid Vicious group. We were gonna be called the Flowers of Romance, and he was gonna be the singer. And we practiced in my house because we had a studio, kind of a studio meant like a few mattresses nailed to the wall.
What I did want to ask is that you were there for like the advent of punk. Were there any women in the punk scene at that time, like working behind the scenes or in bands that you knew of?
Yes, I mean, they're mainly, so one of the first gigs I went was Patti Smith, and obviously she's a woman, and so there was a lot of girls that were part of the bands, but there wasn't any girls band. All the main bands were all boys, you know. Around the 101ers, none of the girls were thinking of playing the guitar and forming their own groups or being part of the groups. There wasn't any girls. Just wasn't, you didn't see it. If you don't see something, you don't think it's possible somehow. You know, I'm sure, but then there was Scritti Politti, I mean, no, X-Ray Spec, and Susie and the Vangees. So there was a whole bunch of girls that were part of the scene. So that was like, there was more, but it was more in the audience too. Like, but there were some people trying to do groups. So going back to my story, so me and Joe were like kind of in a rock, you know, like just trying to figure it out. So I go and sleep with the bass. One day we go out, you know, we're chatting. That's when he gave me my name. He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Paloma." And he goes, "Palmolev?" And I thought it was funny. And I say, "Oh yeah, I am Palmolev." And then we're chatting. I'm pretty drunk. And so we end up sleeping together. Now, that's the bass player of his band. I'm not thinking, I mean, that was low, totally. Not think about anything. We're experimenting. We're very free. So the next day, and it was in our room too. That's rough. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking. But anyway, so he comes back and he's like, so when Paul left, he comes in the room and he's so mad and he's banging the wall and saying, "This really hurts." And like, I felt terrible. Like it really hit me, like that this was really like low. Like it was really, but it also like it was kind of confusing. Like we were like gonna do something. We were gonna be free, and that's what are you saying? This hurts, you know. Of course, when you feel it, like it doesn't hurt when you do it, but when you receive, when you're at the receiving end, that's when it hurts. And because everything was so like quick and we were just trying to figure it out, I felt terrible. Like I really felt sad that I did that to him. And I'm trying to make him feel better. I said, I don't really care for him. I just, you know, we were just playing. Like it was like not serious and nothing. I mean, it was just sad. So needless to say, everything is going downhill in our relationship. And so we are practicing. I'm in this group, and really all my friends from the 101ers are not there because they don't want anything to do with punk. Joe was really like my connection, my friend in the punk, and we were doing it together. Now I'm having problems with him. So I'm feeling like and we're still in the squad where there was friends from the 101ers, but the scene is changing, to say the least. And so anyway, time to practice. Sid Vicious comes, and we finish practice, and he doesn't go. Like Sarah, Vivian Albertini, that was in the Slits, and Sarah had left, and there I am, and Joe and Sid is like hanging around and acting all tough, and like he was kicking things, and I'm like sitting, there was like a bed on the room, I remember, and it was someone else's room, Jeannie's room. I don't know why we were there. But anyway, so there's plants and there's a cat, and he's just like kicking and acting all macho and just saying things to like, he's trying to get to know me really basically in his Sid kind of way, and he goes, "I hate blacks." He goes, that was normal, to make a statement, to provoke something. And sometimes people, like the swastika, supposedly didn't mean that. When people wore swastikas, it was just to shock. But soon I learned that there's some things that are okay to use as a shock, but other things, I would never wear a swastika, because I came from a country where there was a dictator, you know, that was friends with Hitler, and it's atrocious and disgusting. So, and racism. I'm like, when he said that, and I said, I hate people that hate blacks. I'm just like, I was so, but what was happening inside of me is like, I'm thinking about Joe. This is like a really hard time. I wanted the world to stop. I wanted to understand. And this guy is telling me that he hates black, and I don't care about him. I don't find him sexy. I'm like just like really having a hard time. So anyway, he carries on for a little bit, realizing that we're not going anywhere. And then some friends come into the room, because the rooms were pretty much open. You know? My friend Time and Helen come by, and they start talking to him, and then he leaves. Next time we have practice, he says, "You're out of the band." And I go, "What?" Like I was like, so I'm carrying this whole thing in my mind, and now he says I'm out. I'm like, "What do you mean I'm out? Like, why?" And so I questioned him about it, and he said, "You're just not right." And I go, "Okay, you need to leave. We're not practicing. You're not practicing here. You need to just go." And so I am like upset. I'm like kind of a little bit at a loss, but there was still enough interest in me. Like it was a hard time, but I'm still like feel very much identified with the punk. Seeing the punk, the possibilities of punk. So I said, I'm just gonna form my own group. I'm not gonna put up with some creepy guy just like, And so I went to Patti Smith's gig and I asked Ari, and then somehow we got Susie Gatsi, and so then that changed. So suddenly that became like a positive thing, and I was enjoying, and I was very much, there was some things that were non-negotiable. To me, we had to be able to create together. And it wasn't like almost like a conscious thing, okay, girls, we are gonna do it this way. It was just like, that's how we need to roll. And we bring songs. So we each one had an idea, like we had songs from everybody. Tessa brought some, Ari brought some, and we were gonna do it together. Now within that, we were also jerks. Like we had Kate Koros, and she was the guitarist, and she was fine. She was great, and actually it was the boys like were saying no. So Mick Jones was going out with Vivian, and Joe. I was still going out with Joe, but we were like here and there. Like it was a lot more disjointed. It wasn't like it had been, and so they were really telling us, you should get Vivian instead, once we play. So once we play and Vivian saw us, she really wanted to be part of the group. And the boys were really like advocating for her, saying that, oh, she would look great and that. And we went along with it. And I felt like, it was very low to do that to Kate. And everybody was doing that to everybody all the time. Like, okay, it's not convening anymore, you're out. It was part of the thing. How we did it.
And it was just because she didn't look the part or something?
We never thought that she didn't look the part. We thought like she looked fine, but it's only like when they were saying, they influenced us on that decision. We weren't looking for someone else. So we had Susie Gatsi, and she was part of the group. And with her, what happened was that a lot of the time she was just really out of it, like drunk or something, and we couldn't really practice. And we had no idea. We couldn't play, but we had a mission. Ari was a woman with a mission, and I was like I can be very focused when I want to do something. So we didn't know what we were doing, but we were really working hard, writing songs dedicated to it. And it was, I'm talking about a period of 2-3 weeks, so it's very like short-lived. And so we had a News of the World before we ever played any gigs. There was the News of the World, I think it was January 77. And they wrote about, they weren't looking for us. They came to Ari's house, took some pictures, and then went on to say that these girls make the Sex Pistols look like choir boys. Like they were like so ridiculous. And we were like, we're in the papers, like this is amazing. So, okay.
Yeah, well,
so, yeah.
Because I just saw the documentary too.
Okay.
Which was great. But I guess just your perspective, because they showed the articles and how you were written about, and it was very like, all-girl punk group, like they're insane, they're crazy. But what was it like to actually be there at your playing shows? Like, how were you received by audiences? Did they expect a lot from you because you were getting media attention? Were people like disappointed, or did they think that you were cool?
Well, at that time we hadn't played yet. We just been together, just started to learn an instrument. Never had played an instrument before. So when we started, that was the beauty of punk. That there wasn't an expectation that you're gonna go and you have to hit all the notes. So, you were just excited, writing your songs, you were loud, you were yourself, and you were crazy, and that came natural. So for the most, at the very beginning, people really were like, oh, they like have no clue, and we didn't really. But a lot of people recognize the personality and all the positive side of things, like that really we were the only girls. They were all girls, so it was like, it had that element in it. And so some people continuously kept saying they don't know how to play. Like the first time I recorded, the only time I recorded with them was with John Peel.
It's like my favorite.
I think that, so like I was surprised afterwards, everybody says all the time continuously, you can play. So I listened to them, we were playing, what are you talking about, And so, but obviously on a stage, that's more control, but we were the ones playing on the Peel session. But we also had an amazing persona on a stage. We were uninhibited, and we were like very much part of the excitement of punk. And our clothes were like, we convey who we were through our clothes, and we were creative with it, our songs, and so the audience really loved us. Our peers, our tribe, like the people around punk really liked us. People in the street didn't know what to do with us. Like people in the street, like to see girls acting like that, like being bold and being many times aggressive towards people, like they didn't expect that. So that reaction, and the papers were always putting us down, basically, mostly, except like the fanzines, like they started. I always got a good report. Oh, Paloma, she's great. I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm just hitting the drums really hard. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. And but okay, so musically, I didn't have that rock and roll background that everybody in England had. So, and when I started enjoying the drums, I gravitated to the toms and the high toms and the low, the floor tom, and I just like that heavier sound more than I hated like the hi-hat for the most, or the cymbals a lot. Like that was like hippies, old farts, like I didn't like that. And so, and I also like experimented with like different roles that I had never heard anybody, and I never had a lesson from anybody. So it's kind of like, in a way, limiting. Like some people that can play all kinds of things, they have an advantage and you can experiment. But sometimes it has a good thing that when you don't know, you're more able to experiment. You're not afraid to experiment and say, no, that sounds okay to me. So it sounded good to us, it sounded good to the audience. So anybody else had something to say, we didn't care. So even when people say something negative towards us, we liked it because it was publicity.
Yeah. What were some highlights for you as far as like live performances and touring?
I think my very, very best performance was one time in Holland. And I felt like I was like flying, and it wasn't because I was high or anything. It was just, I just remember playing the drums and feeling like I was riding the sound. It was just like a very special, and people were really into it. It was a funny place. It had like hippies lying around in these little like curtain little corners with cushions, and then the punk rockers. It was a weird mix. So it was all there, and we were like just. I actually had just had an argument with Ari. That was like they had like really, and many times just like the response of the people were like great. One funny story was at the very beginning. I think it was at the Harlesden Coliseum. I brought my drums, and I never really play live. I was always in this practice room. So I put my drums, and when I hit it, like the drum just went through it. So honest to God, I'm like hitting it. I grab it, bring it back, hit it, grab it, bring it back the whole time. And Ari's shouting and screaming at me, and I'm so mad at her. I'm trying to, while we play the song, which we don't know. Sometimes we didn't know what song, like me and Tessa, like, what are we playing? Just like, so it was always very chaotic, and there was a spit in the air. It was like the most disgusting thing, but even that, we just didn't think about it. Like it was part of the thing, and you just took everything, you know, whatever like was part of the bag. And so when someone really liked you, they will spit at you. And I was in the drums, so I remember like being able to duck, and I was glad. I mean, I remember Joe being like drenched with the spit. It was disgusting. I mean,
I'm glad they don't do that anymore.
I am really glad that they don't do that. That's not a sign of you liking something. But everything had to be different. You know what I mean? Everything had to be like shocking. And that's what I mean. Like there is like that. You know, I used to say, like, my sisters say, why do you wear these socks? I was wearing fluorescent socks, one pink and one yellow. Like, people didn't do that then. Like, Spanish people did not do. Everybody, like, in England, you could recognize a Spanish person. They used to wear these coats called trencas. And they had a hood. I could tell a Spanish person in Portobello Road, just because the way they dressed. It was very uniform in some way. And so to dress like that was really shocking. Like today's, you know, Gina said that in the documentary, like, it doesn't matter what you wear, you know. But then it really mattered. It was really a statement to go out in the street looking the way that we were. And I used to say, I like to shock people out of their complacency, you know. We had a mission to like shake the status quo, you know, and I can see, I mean, like 40 years later, I'm glad that a lot of the status quo had to be shaken, you know, and still a lot of the things that are taken for normal are not normal, you know. And I think the idea that through music we could have a shortcut, it's just like this, we just discovered this shortcut to communicate with our generation, and that we could talk to each other, and that we could be ourselves, and we didn't, you know, the idea of a 9-to-5 job was like, I wrote a song called Newtown. I wrote a lot of the initial Slits songs. And so Newtown, it just makes people go around sniffing cocaine and taking televisina, you know, like they're saying, well, you're taking drugs. I'm saying, well, you're taking drugs. There's a different kind of drug. Yeah.
Did you have a goal as a band in the beginning? And at any point did you think, I'm a musician now and I'm going to do music forever? Or was it just more spontaneous and something that you were doing at the time, like you said, to shake up the status quo and get in people's faces? And
I did not have a long-term goal, like say like Joe or even Ari. I just had jumped, and even to this day, I feel like I like to meet life, and something is exciting, I'm gonna give myself to it. But how long? I never like thought about that. Like I was just thinking about the now in a way, like people talk about now. You know, really was like that. Like I was just thinking about what we were doing then and to give ourselves. I never thought of it as a career. I did not like the music business and how it was set up. And there was some pretty like amazing projects like Rough Trade, like that did things totally different to, you know, like really giving dignity to the people. Like I think it was a 50-50 deal when like they cast something. I think that's so important. Like, and I don't know why, it just seems to always like get, you know, when you are in love with building community, with working together creatively with people, you have to respect those boundaries, I think. Because otherwise it just becomes a business, and then I'm doing it because I'm going to get something out of you. But what about joining this wonderful conversation as a human collective? Let's do, like, we want to do away with the system, and then we become the system when we're grabbing and we're like getting somewhere with it, you know? I just feel it's sad. Like, I think as we can progress, and I think there is progress, and through rock and roll you can change things and make it more so, but it's complicated to maneuver through. You know, you want to be listened, to be heard, you want like the input of someone. You know, if you're writing songs, you don't want to market yourself, so you're dependent on someone. How far are you prepared to go, sell yourself, so that is in place? And you know, I hope new musicians are aware, and I think you have more tools nowadays, but it still is always, you know, I just think no matter what you do in life, whether it's music or whatever, you have to not lose touch with what you're doing and why you're doing it and who you are, and to be respected, to respect other people and be respected, because I think that's where creativity can come through. And I think the idea for creative people coming together with a mission, that has potency every time. Like, whatever you want to do something, whatever the project is. You know, I work as a teacher in a school. If someone is telling you top down, this is how it's going to work, then your creativity just shuts down. Because you can't have, I mean, you can manage it a little bit, people do, but how much better is to do it the way I think it's intended to be done.
Yeah, I read a little bit before you were kicked out of the band that there were some problems because you had become like disillusioned with the punk scene in general for those reasons that you just said, or was there anything else or specific that happened? So
initially all four Slits, we were working good together, and then they started becoming more like ego or like politics. Two people like saying, no, this is how, you know, like, I think I felt we could do it without, how shall I say? I felt like we could do it without bowing down to all that, what I just described. Okay, I thought we could do it, and I thought we could do it by listening to each other and respecting each other. I think because of coming from a dictatorship, that was like a really important part of my giving everything to the band. And then I started feeling like, you know, like, it's normal in any band to have disagreements, but how you resolve disagreements, I think that will determine the success. If you can disagree and say, well, I really disagree, but you have to give in. Like, if someone feels that they're always giving, like in any relationship, you're gonna be disillusioned. And more and more I felt like Vivian just basically wanted certain things, and I would clash, like specific things. One very like pivotal moment for me was like We had 8 managers because the way we thought. And one guiding thing in the Slits was we were going to be ourselves. That was our goal. We were going to make our own music and not let anyone determine us. So then Malcolm McLardy was interested in managing us. And so we had people, everybody did a record right away. We could have done a record with the songs that we did in John Peel. We could have jumped in, and which, it is a pity in a way that we never did. But at least we had the John Peel. So at that point, both Bernie, mainly Malcolm, but Malcolm and Bernie, they were dictating what was right. And I did not like that. And so I had a little bit like hesitation when he approaches. And so he invited us. And he was very telling me, oh, the best song is Shoplifting. He took me to the bar, and I remember him saying it. And I just remember he's telling me that I'm doing something nice, but I just feel like really creeped out by him for some reason, I don't know. And so anyway, one of the things, we were chatting together as a band with this possible manager, and he said, I hate women, this is true as true is, like as I'm seeing you right now. He said, I hate women, and I thrive in hate. So I want to work with you because it gets me going. Okay, did he say it to shock us? Like in his, you see, this is the thing where it gets confusing. Am I saying it to shock you, but I don't really mean it? Well, if you don't mean what you say, don't say it. To me, it's like, no, I'm might be old-fashioned, but tell it to me straight. And I took it as what he said, and I'm going like, and everybody's like, Malcolm, like, I mean, this is the door to him. Never mind he ripped them off, like the Sex Pistols. He really ripped them off. I mean, like the Sex Pistols had the money that he gave them. He had control over the finances, pretty much, and everything else. But he took them somewhere. So I am like so not into him. So I convinced them not to go, but they were fighting me. All 3 of them were fighting me. They thought it was a good idea. At that point, I still had some, what is the word? Like some weight or something in decisions, but more and more, then it became a hindrance. Like then more polarized between Vivian and I, And in a way, like I wish you had been, we were just crazy girls. Now I think, like we could have just decided, okay, let's wrap it up. We're not agreeing, you go that way, I go this way. But instead it was all these like, and we're about to sign with Island. So, so then it's more and more tensions, and I'm disillusioned. I'm not enjoying the band practice. I'm writing songs that are very different. I wrote FM is a product of all that time. And I wrote Adventures Close to Home. And so and I was really trying to write something that was real. It wasn't about, I hate you, I'm gonna carry knives and change you, because that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking something else. So we're about to sign. I went to the studio, and the idea was that we were gonna have the, naked with the mat. And I thought, like, that's like a pin-up. Like, I remember one time I had this, like, you could see everything. Like, I was not modest. And I wasn't even thinking like that, but I just thought, on the cover, like, why? Like, what? So it was just like the same thing, only with the a veneer of punk. But it was the same thing, selling out your body. We were like who we were, like, so I didn't feel identified with it. Okay, so everybody can do whatever they want. I didn't want to do it. So that became an issue. And this time, they all wanted to do it. And so this is how we went into the studio. So then they started saying, Vivian started saying, and Ari, that losing, that I'm not on time on the beat, that I needed to record with a metronome. So now they're ganging on me on that, which if I look again at the 77, like the John Peel, it was not perfect, but punk wasn't about them. But it really, to me, was just us not being able to deal in a mature way about what was really happening. We were just going different ways. So they kicked me out. And I was sad, but looking back, I think they did me a favor because I couldn't tear myself away. I wasn't having a good time, but I couldn't tear myself away. And so I understand it too. But I have formed a band. It was like my band too. Everything I had was the band. So suddenly I had nothing, and it was just like really this emptiness. And then the Raincoats were started to play, and they really looked up to us, but to me also. And Richard, my brother-in-law, had been playing with them, and he was doing something else and suggested that I join them. So they were was going back to working together in a creative way. I was so self-conscious about now I'm not a good drummer. Not the negative talks from the journalist or other people saying that we don't play. Now my friends are telling me I don't know how to do it. So I'm feeling a little insecure about it, but they were so welcoming, and they were so we like to go up and down with the beat. This is more we have rhythms. I'm like, oh, this is great. And don't have to be paranoid about it, because you can't play if you're paranoid, I don't think, unless you're very good. And I don't know, I couldn't. And so I was able to play together, and I brought one of the songs, The Adventures Close to Home. Is the funniest record, and the credits of it was we cut a deal that is a funny thing. It was me saying, that's my song. If you play, you can have whatever. We have 4 equal parts. But if I play with the Raincoats, they're not doing a cover for you. This is my song. So there's a funny, kind of, I think it's a funny thing. But anyway, so I went on tour, and they right away wanted to do a record, which I'm really grateful, because then it leaves a footprint, of what it was, when we were together. Now I have something to look back. It's not I hang out with these people for 6 months. And I'm still in relationship with them. And I'm still in relationship with Tessa. Over the time, Tessa apologized, because she was the one that was, as in the movie says, she felt terrible. She was my friend. And Ari too. Ari had come to my house here, to this house. He spent 3 days with Wilton, her son. And I have some videotapes of her somewhere. Talking about it, how it was really great, how it was terrible that they kicked me, and she really wanted me to join them. That's when she was trying to do the reunion. But I had no desire whatsoever to join. I was really glad to see her, and that she was, that we could still be friends. And, it happened a long time ago. I didn't care. I didn't care about... I saw Vivian too another time in New York. But we have never had a conversation about anything really real. But with both Ari and Tessa, I have. So you were with the Raincoats. It was 6 months and recorded, and you did a lot in the short time that you played with the Raincoats. Yeah, a lot of that is due to Shirley. Yeah. Shirley is brilliant. Yeah. But what I think I read a little bit about why you decided to. Did you decide to leave the Raincoats and then leave music altogether, or was it the same? It was the same decision. I decided to leave the music scene, okay. And I was with the Raincoats. So it wasn't me not wanting to be with them or a rejection of them. It's just the whole scene was like really old to me at that moment. Because even if we were playing together and that, it's hard being working with other people, really. It is hard. And I just was, I am funny that way. Like if I don't think something brings life, and I remember Vicky telling me, that's so selfish. I'm like, I can't be of use to anybody if I'm not excited about something, like what's the point? I was suffocating really inside, and I started questioning spiritual things, like life is more than this. This is just material, and there has to be something more. I had amazing experiences outside of my body that I remember, which is crazy, like really my body.
Drug-related?
Not drug-related, not drug-related, maybe like hangover from the drugs I had taken, who knows? The fact is that I saw my body down there, and it was scary. It was. But I also started dabbling in Hinduism and just different things. I started like investigating different ways of looking at life that were beyond me and what I want to do, and I hate you.
And you actually went to India to investigate, I guess?
Yeah.
Was that your first trip? Like you decided you want to do music and you went to India?
Yes. So I decided to go to India. I had been really during the last part of my while I was with the Slits, even like I started like throwing the I Ching or listening. I had a friend that was interested in Sai Baba, Timon and Helen, and they would talk to me about like the path of devotion and like just linking your heart to the Godhead, and it was everything like sounded like, well, I'm interested in that, and this is a path, this is an avenue. And I started like being more and more interested. And so they talked to me. They had gone to the ashram, and so I wanted to have a break, and I actually had a lump of money given to me, which it was funny. The guy say, why are you leaving the music? You're starting to make money now. I'm like, I don't care, like I'm out of here. I never really cared about money. It wasn't like something that was gonna keep me there. I'm glad of that. So anyway, we went to India. Yep, my husband Dave.
Oh,
we've
been together for that long?
That long? Yeah, it's like 30.
I thought that was after the first
No.
trip. Oh my God! When did you marry your husband?
So I was with the Raincoats, and we went on a tour, and he did not like punk. He was not into punk, but he was into Paloma. And we knew each other. And the funny thing is that when Joe broke with everybody, I didn't really break. I mean, the relationship changed somewhat. We weren't having meals together and that, but I always kept in touch with individual people. And one of them was Dave. And he was like this crazy looking, like beard, like hippie. And I still like, I'm like, why would I do that? Like, I mean, it was kind of funny, but I just liked him. I just thought he was a cool guy. He's very calm and very like, so I was going back to Spain. I had decided I'm wrapping things up. I'm doing the tour. I told the Raincoats I will do the tour and then finish it. And we had done the recording. And so in that intern, we went to see somebody in the Chippenham pub, I remember, and I was hanging out with, and he came, we were together. And then we started talking, and my husband is very quiet. It's not like me. But then we started talking, and there was so much in common that I would not have thought of, that things that he was like looking for in life. And I was like, I like dancing with him, but I could never talk to him because he just didn't talk much. So when he started talking to me, I thought, that's really amazing. That's really interesting. And he was very kind. I knew he was a very, very kind person. So anyway, we started like getting together. And actually the funny thing is that, so we started hanging out and talking a little bit. And Gina said, you should not, Gina from the Raincoats, she knew him and liked him. He was a friend. He said, you should not be with him. You're going to hurt him. You're going to really leave him and hurt him. And I thought, you are totally right. I better tell him. So I told him. And he goes, let's just do it for one more week. He goes, so many weeks later, we're still like, so that's my beginning with Dave. But so, okay, back to India. So in this intern time, like at first I was just wanting to have a space. So now it's all changing. I was going to go to Spain, and so not knowing what I was doing with my life. So I thought, maybe I should go to India. And so he was willing to come. He was not into Sai Baba or anything, but he was willing to come with me. And so we both went.
What were you expecting to find there?
God.
Did you?
Nope. I found this like crazy situation of the caste system, this guy being totally worshipped, people waiting to see him, almost like a pop star actually. He will walk through the ashram and he'll come to the ashram in this limo, and outside was all this poverty. And it was just such a contrast, and I really did not feel he was good. My friend was saying, it's just, we're all God. So it's not like the God, we're all God. He just knows it, and we don't know it. Like, so at first I kind of like, I'm very kind of, okay, let's see. if it's God, I want to know him. Like, and so we went there, and so our friends had actually lied when they went to the ashram, because they weren't together. They were together. They were not married. But in India, it's a different thing than in this quote saying, if you're not married, you're separated. So I said, I cannot look for truth and lie. That didn't seem right. So I'm like, no, I'm going to say the truth. And so I'm trying to explain to this little guru guy that I really love this man truly, and that we are really married in a sense, but we don't have papers. The guy, nope, you go there, you go there. It was like, I remember seeing him like with his white, everybody had to wear white, and he looked like just so sad. From far away, hi, I'm worshiping him here, you are there. But I was starting to think about God, and I remember one time, I'm sick of the whole thing, everybody's going to the ashram, someone was gonna talk. I remember just going and writing, and I felt this presence of that there was something out there. I didn't know what it was, but I felt like something beautiful. So everybody say, oh, that's Sai Baba. I'm going, no, it's not. I don't know what it was, but it's not Sai Baba. So it was a very distinct thing in my heart. Like there was something different to what I was seeing around me. So we met some people. We had met some people. The Spanish guy that was doing some NGO like work in India, and like making wells and just helping people. So we joined them for a little bit, and so we were gonna be part of it. I actually acquired we talked to some people, and we acquired some land, really like nothing, like it was all dry land, but they gave it to us, and they wanted us because they wanted to lead this thing to help women and children. So initially I thought, well, I said to them, I have no idea how to raise kids, and I haven't raised kids. And oh, no, you can do it. You know how to learn. You be okay. You have what it takes. And they kind of like, and so we went like, so we were like totally being part of this thing. And the guy had to go away, and we had a really good conversation with the guy, Ferrer. And he's very famous. He did a lot of work. He died. And then we were in this like party with some Indian people, and this girl goes, why are you here? We don't want foreigners here. We can do it ourselves. And I'm like, sure. like, okay. So I called my mom and said, Mom, we're coming for Christmas. See you later. I just really felt that there was a sense that they didn't want, and now I understand a little bit. I have gone around the block a few times. I understand why someone would feel like that. There we were trying to help, but there's a whole story behind that, really. There's an amazing documentary called Poverty Incorporated. I really recommend it. It was like explains, because I had like contact with things like that.
Like the volunteerism, kind of, is it like that? Like the volunteer.
Well, you become an elite, and you're helping, and you're bringing your products, and you're killing any, sometimes, you know, it's out of the good heart people want to give, but also it becomes safer. You give these shoes, and so someone was making shoes and making a little business with it. That's killed that industry because they can't compete with your free shoes. And then you don't give shoes, or you bring eggs or chickens, and then you don't bring them. So it's like, it's help people to be self-sufficient, really. Like if you want to help a situation, when you have these CEOs, like these people deciding that, but they are so separated, and they become like the new caste, upper caste. Anyway. So we left. We went home, and then I had my son, Sandy, and we had our son, and we kind of wanted to be normal. We just wanted to be away from anything. Like I left music. I didn't want to look back. I was really burnt out by it, and we just wanted to raise our family and figure out a way of bringing them up. Really prior to that, I think having children made me less selfish. Like for the first time, I had to not just think about what I wanted, but what someone else needed. And so...
Was there any part of you ever that like missed your old life or the music scene or the craziness? Or
Not at all. Really not at all. Like it was... I cannot say it wasn't fun. Like it was fun at the time, but it's like it was an old shoe that doesn't fit anymore. You know, I couldn't. It was, yeah. I'm glad. I was glad. No, I didn't. I didn't miss that. Was life perfect? No, but I felt relationships were very important, and I think I could be honest with Dave, and I could trust him. Because I really couldn't trust people, and so I felt safe in that, and that was very important. And then it was amazing having the kids. Like, it was like...
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
3, okay.
3, yeah.
And when did you raise your kids and then started teaching, or were you teaching the whole time?
No, I was really like, we were very like... The way we were is like we wanted to find out how to raise, what was the best way. And so from earlier on, I felt like I needed to be with them, that I didn't want to put them in a daycare. That was just our conviction. So we had no money. He didn't have very good jobs, and I didn't work. I worked, but at home. But we were okay. We didn't care. And so when my youngest one was like, I think 14 or something, I had started doing the video work, and I had the idea of doing a business. And so I started doing Zoom-in video productions. I just started it, and I got jobs, and then, but it was like a side thing. And I was doing a video with my granddaughter, to teach her Spanish. I kept thinking ideas for videos, and so I thought I'll do a little cute video about. And out of that, I got a job. I never went to college or anything. I did a job. It was really a do-it-yourself way of getting to be a teacher. I had never gone to college. In fact, I was out there doing the video. The kids are running, so I had a bunch of kids that I was gonna film, and they have their hose or anything, and one of my daughter's friends on the phone, and I said, someone wants to talk to you, and I said, I'm busy, I can't talk to them. I had put an application for a part-time job teaching Spanish. No, I'm busy. And then I noticed in the background that she's still talking. And I go, why is she still talking? I'm like in my mind. And then she said, it's from Nose School. I go, oh my God. So I get on the phone. She said, well, we'd like to meet you. Do you have a teacher's degree? And I go, no. Do you have any degree? No. Do you have a high school diploma? I said, yes, I do have it. Somehow she gave me I said, I'm Spanish, I know how to speak Spanish, and she was Mexican, the principal. So I had an interview. It was past the time of where you're supposed to put the application, so I just did it last minute. I went with the little video. I finished my little video quickly. I dressed up. I gave her the tape and I said, I really want this job. And she gave it to me. Oh my God. And then,
still punk.
Yeah,
DIY.
Totally, all the way. I'm so DIY. I can't help it. I don't know how to do it any other way. Yeah. So, gosh, I talk a lot.
Well, I did want to ask you about a few questions, I guess. You have talked about, like, you're not really into organized religion, but you're a very spiritual person. When we got here, I thought you were still very much involved in this church that you've been involved in. Oh, yeah, sure. In the church that you had been a part of for a long time. I know you, like, lived in Spain, moved to the U.S. here on the Cape. And then, I don't know how to say this, like, formed a relationship with Jesus Christ specifically. If you could just talk a little bit about how you ended up here and your
faith
in the church, your faith, your relationship with Jesus.
So after coming back from India, we were searching for something that would make sense. You know, the culture, the regular culture, we couldn't fit in the regular culture. We just were not like that. And we had gone to Spain, and we were very different. The people in the village were great. You know, we were who we were, and they accepted us and loved us. But I always liked thinking about life and the purpose of life, or just have a frame about it. And we became interested in anthroposophy and the ideas of Rudolf Steiner, which is Waldorf schools and that. And it was very spiritual, and everything was spiritual. And we had visited, so we went to England and we got surely involved with it. But my experience there was actually like kind of weird. Like, we became part, we left it, we had a home at one point in England that the government had given us this beautiful home. And we were part of this community, and then there was an opening for a job for Dave to be a teacher in this Waldorf school. And he had been studying in Emerson College to get ready to be. And everything went crazy, and the high priest or the spiritual leaders of the community, like, I had the same experience with two different people that I went to talk to them about my search, my spiritual thing, and they kissed me. Like, you know, in Spain we kiss, we hug. All the time you see someone, hi, and you give them a hug, but that it was beyond that. And one of them was dying, and the wife was in the living room. I'm like, it's so weird. And I was just like kind of disgusted. And I remember saying to the wife asked me, how are you feeling? And I just came out. I said, well, to be honest, I'm a little like I'm a little bit confused. And she said, oh, that's not surprising. That's what the wife in front of the guy said. So anyway, long story. So that is like we gave everything up again. We had gotten a home. We have 2 kids. And suddenly we lose it. In the midst of that, in that community, we had gone to this community, anthroposophical community in the north of England. And someone came, a nurse, and she said, well, what about Jesus? You talk about the Christ consciousness, but it seems so far apart. And I go, so I tried to say, no, it's the same thing. Like we really you pick a mantra or you pick a God and you stick with it. We're all into, I wanted to explain that. But the reaction of the guy that had tried to kiss me, that was the leader, I'm like frustrated. Why doesn't he say? And he's like annoyed at her question. I thought that was peculiar. Like I didn't know why. And so we're in a community. So like some people live in different little houses in the moors, near the moors. And so I see her and I felt like, oh, I should try and answer that. Just say hi to her. She was new and I said, oh. So we went, I remember feeling like weird for some reason, talking to her like she was an outcast or something. There was something weird about it. And I was trying to straighten her, like say, no, really, this community is very much, anthroposophy is really centered about spirituality and blah, blah, blah. I was going to talk to her. And then, but it turned around that she said, it's just so complicated, it's so much easier, you just talk to Jesus. And I go, really? Okay, I mean, Steiner wrote books and books about this world and the world to come, and big long words that were really complicated. And it just sounded like so awesome to me, like so I thought, oh, I'll try it. Like I'm like all for trying anything new. I'm desperate enough. And so I did. I just said, God, if you're there, I want to know you. And I had no church. It's just that conversation with this girl. And and she talked about the Bible, so I bought myself a Living Bible, because like a translation that was a current translation, like I couldn't understand any of the King James. And so I had the idea of, the I Ching, you open it, whatever, or something, this chancy thing. So I was kind of like that type of Christian that goes, open the Bible, see what God tells me, So that's where my mindset was. And I opened it in Romans 2, and it says, I was really upset to these friends that they were like, I had told them that I started like thinking about Jesus, and they were like really open-minded, and they go so like nasty about it. I'm like, that's weird. Like, so all these things weren't making sense. And so I was upset with them. They were like become new friends, and we were like, like I thought that I could talk to them about what I was thinking, but they were very like, so in the book, in the Bible, it said like, you be saying how terrible these people are, but you are just as bad, and I have been so patient with you. Now that sounds like, hey, I told you I was so, it sounds like that, but it was not at all. The spirit of the communication was this thing, get off your horses, don't be critical, I love you. And I just felt this, like when I'm hearing it, I felt like, again, this like presence of something divine and not lying. I really felt this like just wonderful sense of belonging and hope, all in one, like a bottle, like if you have a concentration of everything positive or truth. So I'm like amazed, like I had just opened it and it spoke to where I was. And I had gone for a walk by myself because I was so depressed. Because now we're losing everything, this doesn't make sense, and there we go again, nothing. So it was hard. And Dave said, I'll stay with the kids, you go for a walk. So I had gone really, like, I was kind of downcast, and now I feel this, like, energy. Like, I feel like, wow, like, what is this? And then I said, I'm going to open the book again and see what it says. I want to keep this conversation going. So I open it, and Colossians 2. And he said, because all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge are hidden in Christ Jesus. And I go, oh my God, like, this is so amazing. Like, I'm like, this is what I've been looking for. I just felt like I didn't have to understand little details. I just understood that there was like, you know, later on I read, like, it's a rock, Jesus. That's what I meant. That's the feeling I had. In the midst of a storm of having gone through so many things in my life, and none of it had made sense, I just felt like I arrived home. I don't know. That's what I felt. Other people might feel that with someone else. That's my experience. So of course I went back. They was amazed how I looked so different. Like, it was a tangible difference. I didn't make it up. I didn't force it to happen. I was just minding my own business, being all depressed. And then it was a surprise. And so anyway, like, from then on, of course, like, so the way I am, just like, I want to meet other people that think like that. I want to meet who makes sense. And then at the same time, my mom was feeling sick. She had gotten Parkinson. And so I felt like, I think, and everything was falling apart in that community. We weren't, like, yelling. So we decided to move back to Spain. And that's where, so we took care of my mom. So I had this really strong faith, and I went and I talked to my mom. Is a Catholic, and then out of the 9 brothers and sisters, only one stayed Catholic. So the 2 of them are working on me. Great, she's like finally seeing it, and bring a priest. And I'm like, why did you let them talk about idols? I mean, that's nonsense. You know, I'm talking to the priest about it. Why do you do this? And so anyway, I didn't really. So the person that had talked to me was like Pentecostal, like believe in the Bible, like more in a, not in rituals, but just more in a direct, that really God was. The main thing I got out of it is that whatever, it was really God saying, Jesus saying something to us today. So then idols were out, and I was really on the path of becoming it. It just made sense. Like, so evangelicals spoke the same thing that I felt that I had. So we were there for a little bit with a group of people, and then we came here to take care of, my mom passed away. His mom needed help. We came here and we were helping her with, and then we just decided to stay in this country. And for a long time we were part of this very active, they did plays, and they did a lot of activity and a lot of outreaches, like telling people about the gospel, street preaching, the whole shebang. Like, and we were part of it 100%, thinking that there was times that I really questioned some things, but again, it was our whole life. And now it's not just my whole life on me and Dave, it was our kids. We had 3 kids, and all our friends are part of it. We preached really against a lot of things that you don't hear it the first day when you sign up. You don't really sign up, but well, you kind of do. But anyway, like, so I was 24 years in Bovenham. And looking back, I think I couldn't live. I felt really, many times I have felt trapped. But there was, as a Christian, you're called to forgive. Not everybody's perfect, to give people the benefit of the doubt. But there was underlining assumptions. And also I felt like the Bible is the truth because I felt it. Like, so that was so real. And basically I started questioning some things, and I had experiences. We had horrible experiences. Our daughter started like sleeping around, and she got kicked out, and they said that's the best thing for her, and we went along with it, which I regret 100%. I mean, horrible. So it was very controlling. Basically, this is how it's done. This is the truth. All of this. So it went from Jesus to this whole ugly, I can see it now as an ugly, controlling thing. And I don't think they know what they're doing. I don't think anybody consciously is sitting there and saying, how can I control these people? I don't think they're aware of it. The same way I wasn't aware of it, and I put up with it. But it's actually a really interesting, and I think it's like, and there's many people trapped in that kind of thing, I feel like. So you have this experience, you feel a connection with a being that is out there. You have come to understand the person of Jesus, the one that walked on earth, hang out with prostitutes, like the tax collectors, got mad at the religious people, and somehow it starts. And really a lot of the doctrines, like I had to study it in order to be able to get out of there. Like some of the doctrine of hell, I am so opposed to the way it's, I don't think biblically it's true. Like, I mean, that's a whole big thing for people that are interested in that. But there's a great work that people have done that is like just not true. That does not make sense. A loving God that will create some people and he's going to keep them for no reason. It's not going to benefit them to be burning in hell forever. I mean, who thinks that? I don't want that God. If that is a God, I don't want that God. And it's not. Like, I mean, you look at nature and there's a beauty, there's a balance. And I think we're made in the image of God. And I think we are co-create. God has given us that creativity to say, go, do something. You know, like we create as we move, as we progress. So through this time of questioning, like headship was very important. Your pastor tells you something, you like have to accept that authority, and that is accepting God's authority. So if you question the authority, you're questioning God. So everything gets, there's so many things, the roles of women. Why did I put up? How someone, but you know what, how? Because I had such a bad situation there, like such a bad experience. Well, the opposite must be true. Almost it's like if me being free and being able to do didn't reap anything like lasting in a way, well, maybe let's try the opposite way. And so what I feel now is like not at all like that. I feel Jesus at the time, if you think about the time, he works with us wherever we are. So at that time, that was the mentality. A lot of the writings about women, that's how he gave dignity to women. I don't think, I feel in my marriage, like we both have an input. We both have a dignity, which is common sense to anybody except for outside the church. But in the church world, it's just this idea is just so warped, and there's so many girls that are like hurting and they don't talk, they don't speak up because they think they're gonna offend God. Well, no, go for it. You're not offending God. God is happy when we're free. He created us to be free. And so many of the things that so eventually we left, and it was very painful, and we lost all our friends. And now eventually, like after time, many people actually left when we left. And so it was and there was a lot of good things, like people loving each other, people helping each other as a community. That was hard to live. And the idea of thinking about someone else, that there is a God and that others are important. I still believe that if I live a self-centered life, it's kind of not that great, I mean, I do still, I do think, though, that it's good to love yourself. You shouldn't hate yourself, you know. But there is things that I am totally, I call myself like a punk mystic, a do-it-yourself mystic. Like, I feel like I can close my eyes and I can, do I know everything? Do I have every answer? Not that I wish I had more answers about things, but I know the evil in the world that does not come from God. It comes from the fact that we're free. And when you want to be a jerk to someone, guess what? You can. And there's consequences. And God didn't do that. You did it, or I did it, you know. And so it's learning to live with each other in a way. I think, if at least, and I also think like sometimes the commandments, you know, they are just like reaching out, you know, love others. But that's it. Love your enemies. Who can do that? I mean, there's Gandhi. He's not even supposed to be a Christian. Like, he's more Christ-like than many Christians that are like happy about war and death sentence. I mean, like, don't get me going. Like, there's all these crazy, unjust things that are happening in this Christian nation. I mean, people like Tolstoy talk about, like Jesus said, love your enemies, and that should have an impact in the so-called Christian nation. He spoke that, and I was reading a book by him in 1800. Imagine if, like, Europe had listened to him, we wouldn't have had the wars. So there has been, what I want to say is, like, through the ages of the church, the Christian church, there has been a lot of voices saying, this is important, guys, and this is man-made. And there's a big difference. And that mainly, like, Constantine comes, the Christians they've been persecuted, now they're at the top. Now they're going to kill everybody that doesn't agree. It happens again and again and again. And who rises to the top? The one that wants to be a jerk. But that has nothing to do with Jesus. I feel Jesus came to serve, to love, to build. And so, how to bring my ideas into practice. So right now I go sometimes to a Quaker meeting because they don't talk. That's good. There's no pastors. There's another class. And I have met pastors that are very kind people, but I'm just not gonna see, and there's someone, for instance, that is gonna say hell is real, or us and them, and just can't do it. I just don't believe in it. Or, you know, I believe like many people might be closer to Jesus that don't use the name of Jesus. Like he said, love me in spirit and in truth. That's pretty open. I'm looking for people that will worship me in spirit and in truth. To me, that means, that's my faith. So what does that mean for me today? So I'm accountable to that, and everybody's accountable to what they do with their lives. In the sense of, and there's not this judgment of God that wants to, oh, I call you, you did that wrong. But it's a loving, I see it as a loving Father, or just a loving presence that wants to guide us at the same time that wants to respect our freedom. So it's kind of it's like having a teenager. No, what about this? Have you thought about that? And like putting things in our, look at my whole journey. I haven't been stopped. I mean, they could have like, zap me. You want to be asleep? No, like, go ahead. Like, and then I think when something comes out of you, then you can deal with it, figure it out. But then the key thing is that to be honest with yourself when something is not working, to be able to let go. And then also some people don't think that we're all good and there's nothing wrong with us. I don't believe that. I know myself. I think there's things in me that I'd rather not have them, but I do have them. And I feel like God, when I am in the presence of God, I'm honest, I say, I don't really like that. Help me out. I feel like there is a source there for me. It's just my experience. So I'm sticking to that. So I find that so I feel in a weird place, like I don't go to church and I'm talking about Jesus. And Christians say I'm definitely a rebel. I have had letters telling me how terrible I am. And yeah, I have, from some crazy, not the common, like not everybody's like that. I want to give a picture. There's a lot of lovely people and lots of people that are doing great things in the name of God, that are part of crazy organizations. And they're doing good. And these jerks on both sides, you know. So it's not being in the right group or the right philosophy or the right political party. I think it comes down more to what we do with our lives and how honest we can be with ourselves and others.
It's like crazy that there is this common theme throughout your life too, that like every decision you make, there is still that like punk ethos behind it, kind of, and the DIY thing. Yeah. I mean, whether it's spirituality, like actually doing music, traveling, like leaving your home to go. Yeah, it's really.
It really, I mean, in the end, it's like you are who you are.
Yeah. Okay, so I just have a few that I ask everyone at the end. How do you feel about your role in and contribution to rock music history in general?
I think both the Slits and the Raincoats opened the door to women in an amazing, okay, let me phrase that. We opened the door to be able to step in and being part of the conversation. That you didn't have to be, that the important thing wasn't having the right manager, knowing how to play your instrument, but it was like more like rock and roll at its best is someone getting on a stage with a guitar or drums or with a mic and saying, I am young and this is my experience. And it's a tool to be creative, to be an artist, to speak your heart out at its best. When it's, rock and roll is a phenomenon that and young people can identify, and then it becomes. So I think both the groups were very much a new thing, that we were gonna be what's the word? Like we were gonna be define ourselves. We weren't gonna let someone else. That we weren't gonna be labeled. Even like the Slits were like, no, we're not feminists. We're ourselves. We don't want a label. So just creating that, like from a start, okay, you can do that. You don't, in order to get like an audience, you don't have to say you are A, B, or C, or you don't have to agree with the manager that you don't like. Oh, I have met people that their managers was abusing them sexually. So many people had to pay a price. In the time that I was with the bands, both bands, we were self-determined. Vivian Goldman said that. We were self-determined. And that really is a key contribution. Then other people, many people were inspired by the Raincoats, but it was not so much in the music. Their music was different. But that self-determination, that not being scared to experiment when your audience likes the sound that you do in these first few songs, not be scared to explore something different. I think all that, and the proof is that 40 years later, people are interested in talking about this band. Why? Just that gives you the answer, that I think we hit a nerve. There was a nerve, a social nerve there, that many women were getting tired of the lot that we had. And we didn't want it. And us being crazy and wearing crazy clothes and that, it's just like, what? Stop them. and we didn't. And the fact that we felt confident in it.
And what are your thoughts on the visibility of women in rock and roll history in general? Is there a gender discrepancy? Is it not an issue, or has it changed for better or worse since you started playing music?
I think there is a huge difference. I do believe there is a big difference. And I think when you're not discriminated, you can say, no, there's no discrimination. Like, say if you're if you're white, and black people say, hey, we are being discriminated. We're being put in jail for anything. But people like good white folks don't have that problem, so they don't see it. And I think if you're not a woman that is speaking up or not playing the role, you don't notice it. You just go along with the status quo and you don't feel it. But the proof is when you do something different. That's when you test the ground. That's when you know, like, if you are allowed to disagree. Are we allowed to disagree? I think you should be allowed to disagree and have a different voice. And I think, so I do feel like in the rock and roll history, it's a lot harder for women to be able to, like my example with Sid Vicious, a guy doesn't have to deal with that. Why? Why do we have to, be creating and putting our hand like that? Let me create. No, that's not. I can be sexy. I can enjoy my body and feel good about it. But it doesn't mean it's up for grabs. Like, I still have a decision in the matter. I go with whoever I want to go, but you can't force your way because you're my manager or because you are, you can help me in my career or something like that. And I think women also have a responsibility to not do it. Just not put up, even if it's a loss, and that's the sacrifice that many times someone might pay. But I think we're making progress. And I think slowly but surely, people will become more, it will be something of the past, But it's still a long way.
Yeah, I think I'll skip this one. We'll just do the Oprah question. It's not really. No, just what are you most proud of personally and or professionally?
The thing that I'm most proud about is that I have been able to be true to myself through all these different stages in my life.
It wasn't Oprah. I didn't even know it was actually an Oprah question, but it is.
I didn't know that. I've never been there. I'm not that kind of famous. I really am proud of the last two songs I wrote. Adventures Close to Home and FM. It was like a cry for something different, or just like, it was like a flower, like finding its way out to the light. Okay, this is where I'm at. And I think that's something that I value, that I feel like, and I almost lost it for a long time. But so I value it more.
Well, we talked for a long time.
How long was that?
I mean, I don't know actually.
It was a long time.
But I
told you I talked a lot.
I mean, there were some questions I didn't have to ask because you answered them. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I had asked, or that we didn't talk about, that you want to talk about?
I think we talked about.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk a lot about your faith, because it's not like a Slits interview, which I know you've been talking a lot about the Slits.
Right,
the past few
which
years.
I appreciate that, because I always feel like that's very much an important part.
Yeah. So if there's anything else, like, personal about you as a person, or your life, that you wanted to add that I didn't ask.
Yeah, I could say maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I think I have said it, but I could. So at the end of the day, I feel that as humans, we are struggling for identity, for individuality, but we also have a need for each other, for a community, or to be in relationships. And that's what it gets us in trouble, because we sacrifice one to get the other. And I think through being creative, being an artist, you can be yourself and still connect with an audience, no matter what you're writing, or you are like, writing songs, or making music, or being a painter. And I think that's very important. There's something else I wanted to...
Oh no.
What?
Well, then if you think about it too hard, and then you'll never think about it. But if someone starts talking about something else, you might remember what you were going to say.
Oh, okay.
No,
It's to do with that idea of... so to hold that balance between the two, to be true to yourself. Oh, I know what it was. So you can become part of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and you can get lost in both sides of the spectrum. Like now, this country is so polarized, and I hate what Trump is doing, and I hate what he gets away with, and that we just, we elected him. Not we, like I didn't, but Americans did. Someone must have. And so, but you can get lost in either, like whether it's a punk rock, like you can have someone like Malcolm telling you, or you can have a church. I mean, like how opposite they are. But at the end of the day, it boils down to I still have this longing of working with people. Like we do, I enjoy it. Do you enjoy it? We enjoy it. Like finding a people that you can say, yeah, isn't that idea great? Oh yeah, we could add this. That is, to me, being creative with another human is like a very cool thing, Relationships are important. So being honest in this relationship. But not lose yourself, because I think the fear is what makes us, then you end up losing it anyway. If you stick to something because out of fear that you're not gonna, look at me, I feel like I have had a beautiful life in many ways. I have had a lot of heartaches, but I have had also many opportunities that, like teaching, who was gonna tell me, and that's out of that, try not to be fearful, live life.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You did it.
We did it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.